is 21st, 2021. All right, now, this gentleman, when he speaks, what I hear out of his mouth is a almost inflection. inflection, as if like the light bulb that you screw in, right? This light bulb I have right here, this says Philips. That light bulb over there might be a Watt, W-A-T-T, whatever, whoever manufactures, doesn't matter. He is facially, he looks relatable to my genealogy. But when he speaks, I call it Millennial Chinese. Only because I was supposed to go in a specific direction with Zodiac, with Niklaus. But instead they had me raped. They kept me with the Turks problem. They kept me local. And I flipped over the handlebars because now I'm in a spot that I shouldn't be. So I call him Millennial Chinese in respect because he is very affluent in his way he speaks in a very fast pace because he's been, let's say, brought up to speed, I suppose, more than I have, as I'm trying to trepidatiously negotiate between what I know happened and where to go for help, because nobody really has shown any helpful anything. They've just been worse since it happened. However, he's about the same age as my son Benjamin, Benjamin Jason ROEMER, 1999. I did notice he is wearing a vest, which is very nice, not a suit jacket. I appreciate that. I don't have a word for it yet. We'll leave it in the Chinese millennial at the moment. That looks like my lineage, I don't claim Chinese anything at the moment because I have to stay on the bicycle at the moment, even though I know I have flipped over the handlebars and I toggle in between. When he does put his arm up, however, his forearm, the first half of his arm, is shaved. I have a group of handsome genealogy relatives of ours that the older group did a tattoo, a color tattoo on their forearm, specifically because it was a sign of something that they would have never have done if it wasn't this important. This generation, because the fathers did it respectfully, and my beautiful Russians, this generation is now just shaving the hair, if they have any, or what little hair they have, off their forearms. So I thank you for the solidarity of that specific fraternal order. That's important to me. See how fast he speaks? It's like an auctioneer, because he knows what he means. Me, I'm a little more like, whoa, I flipped a handlebar. I gotta go back to what I knew and where we are, and I gotta do some weaving. In order to get their opinion about these vaccine mandates. For instance, Stratus Morphigan, who is the director of operations for the Brooklyn Dumpling Shop, never heard of that. That the city did not plan properly for this mandate. Here's what he told us. The government, city especially, and the state has not given us the proper tools to cross-check to see if this piece of paper written in pen is validated. It reminds me of my learner's permit from 1983, which is ironic, by the way, since a lot of people online have been comparing these mandates to 1984. Furthermore, Stratus questioned why small businesses have to bear this burden while big shops don't. Here's what he said. My question is, why aren't they doing this at Home Depot? Why aren't they doing this at CVS? Why aren't they doing this at Stop and Shop? Why are they picking on the only place that people can congregate and have the lowest infection rates? And lastly, he questioned whether it's his place at all to do this job. Here's what he said on that front. I can't tell people to put something into their body. I can advise them on what food and drink they can have and protect the safety of my product, but I can't tell a pregnant woman, you can't come into my restaurant tonight because you're not vaccinated.
where I can't tell someone that
all of this is like, and then you gotta translate it for whatever piece of IQ, GQ they're relative to in genealogy. It's magic and a genie. You rub the bottle, you get the right answer. It's magi and it's general. Major general.
If there's a law made, and if that's the way they would like it to be, then let them figure out how to enforce it. Why is it my responsibility? However, he says that even though it's frustrating, he will still comply with the mandate since getting shut down is not an option. Here's what he said. It's frustrating, but at the same time, we do not want to get shut down. We'll do anything they say. We've got to stay in business. However, some restaurants are taking the matter into their own hands. In fact,
Aristocracy.
3 days ago, a group of restaurants, as well as other small businesses, they filed a lawsuit against both New York City as well as Mayor Bill de Blasio.
I don't get this lawsuit business, but whatever. That's why I have Chinese, whatever he is, millennials.
They argue that Mayor Bill de Blasio's mandate is arbitrary, irrational, unscientific, and unlawful.
They enjoy this stuff. I just like explaining my part to them and fixing stuff.
By mandating such a thing, the mayor is essentially violating people's freedom of religion. Also, by mandating all employees of certain establishments to be vaccinated, while knowing it is against certain groups' religious beliefs, an argument can be made that the mayor is in essence forcing employers to violate Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
No idea what the hell any of that means.
Because it targets some businesses, like gyms and restaurants, but not others, which they claim is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. Now, we weren't able to get a comment from Bill de Blasio on this lawsuit. However, 2 days ago, he told reporters that he had tremendous confidence that his mandate is legal. Now, we here at the Epic Times, we did reach out to the legal department of New York City for comment.
Epic
but they
Times.
emailed us back saying that they
I say EPIC. That's my 4-digit code at Enigma.
As we already mentioned in our previous episode, the official July numbers from the Border Protection Agency came
This is important.
and they show that apprehensions at the U.S. southern border have reached a 21-year high. More than 212,000 people were apprehended at the U.S. southern border in the month of July.
See, they see the pattern. It's the older guys, like my dad's age, that fucked up, and the grandparents before that.
Back in the year 2000. However, these types of numbers, this data, and these statistics, they don't paint the full picture of the human experience down there at the border. For instance, you might remember this video here.
Yeah, this.
It was captured about 5 months ago back at the end of March, and it shows smugglers dropping
just
young
dropping
children
kids
over the border wall in New Mexico. Now, fortunately, those kids were picked up by Border Patrol and they were nursed back to health. But it just goes.
Here's the thing. This is an old tradition. They call it seeding. SEEDING. This is a sign that the guys who had the kids don't want them, don't want to feed them, don't want to care for them. They already have too many, but don't know what to do with them. So why is it coming over and then getting food, shelter, and whatnot? Are they afraid on that side of the wall to execute their own? I mean, like, that's part of the planning ahead of time at Zodiac, which we talked about. If you have this type of future going on, why aren't you sterilizing the current and not allowing them to have children? Why are you making future problems for government to have to deal with? Just curious. Because these are not helpers. This is not a wanted situation at any time in any area, time and space. But then it becomes a problem. And then it becomes something that has to be talked about or dealt with. Because the construct, your constructive criticism is all wrong. It was written wrong, discussed wrong, planned wrong, installed wrong, and now we've got this going on with imagery, and nobody even knows how to philosophize it properly. They just don't. And they're handling it all wrong, causing even more damage in the future. Star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's August 21st, 2021.
Goes to show the kind of tragedy that's unfolding down there. And so, while I was down south, I took the opportunity to sit down with Yvette Harrell. She's a congresswoman from New Mexico, and that portion of the wall that we just saw
New
where the
Mexico.
kids were thrown over, that's actually in her district. And so her and I would discuss the situation as she sees it. Take a look.
Well, I find it fascinating that the Democrats are all about racial justice, equality, all these things, but yet they don't want to talk about the 1 in 3 women and children that are being raped on the way up here. They don't want to talk about the sex trafficking.
That's
They don't wanna talk
Zodiac
about the
and
children that are
Sundial
literally, and I'm
being
sure you've seen
split.
videos that are being either dropped over the fence. That's in my district. That happens quite frequently, or the ones that are just being brought up
It
to
was
the
like
to
this,
the edge of
and
the
then
Rio
all of a
Grande,
sudden they did
right
like
where in New
this.
Mexico, Texas, and Mexico
It was
all
here,
intersect,
and it went like
and leaving
this.
these kids
And
in the
now
dark of
we are
night,
in an
3 and 4 and
inverted
5-year-olds.
situation.
They don't wanna
To
discuss
speak
that.
about
They
what was
only want
on
to
the
talk
agenda
about what
is
they
now
want to
no
talk about
longer
in
even
terms of driving the
categorically
narrative,
in
and
the
that's why I
same
think it's so important.
position or
I
mean
very think
the
that
same
this
thing
opportunity
any
so
longer.
people can understand
What they're
there's a real
arguing
problem.
about doesn't even
These children
exist.
that are being dropped off at our borders. The Democrats don't want to talk about it because it doesn't fit their narrative.
They're getting
And
involved in
with the
pieces
mainstream
that were
media
not meant
talking about
to
it
be
in the
talked
way
about
that
by
it needs
certain
to,
people
very
because
openly and very
it
honestly.
was
I mean, this
before the
entire
invert
process, it's cruel.
was
It's
created.
cruel for the families, the kids that are coming here
It is
illegally,
cruel.
because a lot of them don't even
Being
understand what
human
they're
at this
doing.
point
It's
is
costly
cruel.
to the American people,
Bayside
and it's very
Station, Bayside, New
powerless
York,
that our
11361.
administration wouldn't
This is
take
Century
people
20,
admit
year
that they made a
21,
problem,
after the
made a
rape
mistake
in
by opening the border.
1998.
But here we are with the numbers coming through every month. There's another increase. We're at 20-year highs right now. Our country cannot sustain this, and quite frankly, we cannot afford this.
And I've read reports of border towns that have a high percentage
Same
of
guy.
immigrants who are being housed there for as they're getting processed. And sometimes I'm reading the COVID numbers that are coming out of those places, like the percentage-wise, and I almost have to like double check another source to make sure that's not a typo, because I've seen them in like the high double digits.
Well, it's crazy because not only are these migrants coming in who may have or been exposed to COVID, a number of other infectious diseases, and so we're putting our law enforcement, our border patrol, our
I
communities.
mean, I know people are documenting it. He's got a camera.
On the border anymore because as you know,
They're documenting
they're
it, so they have the
putting
right
these people into
discussion,
interior
the right
country
IDs,
as rapidly
the right
as they can.
symbols,
So
the right
this is all
sounds,
coming to a neighborhood near
in the
you.
right
And it's not
time
just
frame.
the
So there's
COVID,
no
it's
dodging the
illicit
subject.
drugs, it's the fentanyl. I mean, these are criminals in a lot of ways that are coming here that have criminal backgrounds in other nations that are getting into our country, and now on this catch and release situation.
Jay, how's that detective thing going out for you in NYPD? I'm just curious.
An uptick in the COVID cases, and of course the drugs.
You and your
I mean,
whole
that's-
Turkish
we could
family.
do a whole program on just the illicit drugs, the fentanyl that's coming up through our southern border.
From your perspective, from being inside of Congress, a number of people I've spoken to, they mentioned that people have been flown into the interior of the country,
Yeah.
but a lot
You
of people also say
realize-
that nobody knows where these people are going.
Yeah, where are they
Is that the
going?
case?
Where do they
From
come
your
from?
perspective, being inside of Congress?
In fact,
It's
what's really
like
interesting
Greek
is I've
and
been down to the border
Lesbos
5 different
and
times.
Syria.
I have
It
gone
just.
down, in fact, I think I mentioned earlier, we had taken a CODEL of the Oversight Committee down to the border, but we went to one of the plants where they're keeping the kids over at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. So they're taking these people to the processing center, then moving them out very quickly. But in this Health and Human Services, I call it kid camp because it's a huge tent. There's about 4,500 children in there, unaccompanied minors, that are being moved into the interior every
Why?
month. They're moving them out that fast.
To North America?
They're not doing
Why?
background checks. We don't know if these kids are going to people here legally, if these are real sponsors, if these are cartel. I mean, and we don't even know where all they're going. But all of this is at the expense of the taxpayer, and that's what is a shame. The amount of money that's being spent to not only house these kids, feed these kids, medicate these kids and the families, and then move them into the interior. Remember, any transportation costs are on the backs of the taxpayer.
Yeah. Is there no remedy for at least the transparency side of it? Because it seems like
Welcome to your inheritance, kiddos.
and nobody knows where they're going.
Yeah.
What's the justification for it? Is it like privacy for them, or?
I think it's more about the Biden administration and the department's not willing to say we have a crisis. This doesn't even have to be happening. If we would have seen